Hi all, welcome to another video, and in this video I'll share a little bit about some of the projects that I've done at work recently that have involved heavy usage of AI tools that we've got at this point. So yeah, before I get started, uh, this is me, Boomin. For those of you who have seen my video or videos before, or for those of you who know me and or are connected to me on LinkedIn. And I'm recording this video. It's nearly 10 p.m. here in Sydney right now, and I've had a long day. It was a very tiring day, and I'm part of a project where new things happen every single day. So it's a really interesting project that has a big organizational impact. Uh, but there's quite a few uncertainties and quite a few stakeholder expectations to manage while ensuring we are delivering on time. So it's a bit of an interesting project, and it keeps me busy, keeps me very tired through the day. But anyway, that's my day job, and I'm not exactly talking about the day-to-day projects that I'm doing, but instead I'm talking about the projects that I've been doing that are in addition to what I do on a daily basis at my role. So the two AI projects that I'm going to talk about is one, delivering training to all the different engineers across the organization, and two, using GitHub Copilot to migrate some of our legacy web applications. Okay, so let's start by delivering training. So I think I may have talked about this in one of my previous videos, so if I'm repeating, I apologize. But at the start of this year, a few of us were chosen to be a part of this super user program at my company. And as a part of that, in addition to using GitHub Copilot for the last 6 months, we were also given some formal training by uh, some organization who provides GitHub Copilot training, and we've also had sessions with the GitHub team uh, to who tell us more and more about their tools and how can we effectively use them to improve productivity. So one of the first things that I did after we were provided training was to actually, for me, to deliver training onto my cohort. And my cohort would be engineers that are part of the organization that I work for, the company that I work for, and these engineers they have varying levels of skill. So from junior all the way up to senior or principal, so on and so forth. Yeah, and what was interesting about this training was it was really a test of endurance, because the training session was 2.5 hours, and I was engaged for 2.5 hours. It was me talking, making jokes for 2.5 hours at one go. Actually, we did have like a 10-minute break, but that was in the grand scheme of things, 10-minute break it's alright. I mean, it's not that big for like a 2.5 hour thing. And the most interesting part about all of this was that for the entire 2.5 hours, I was not tired at all. I was actually, after finishing that, I was all the more energetic. I was pumped. I was psyched. I was like, okay, you know what? Let's do this again. Let's talk more about this. And I actually can't believe that, because that was a long training session the long presentation that I was doing. And it wasn't just that. I also made lots of jokes in that presentation when I was giving the training. And I don't think any of the jokes were funny. I mean, I don't think any of the jokes were just not landing. You know what? It was just bad. It was like just really lame humor. But for some reason, I kept making those lame jokes, and I kept enjoying myself, and I was having a great time. So I just kept going, and it was just starting with the basic usage of some of the the training involved talking about starting with the basic usage, and the basic usage would be things like how you can things about generative AI in general, and things like what are some of the training models, and the fact that it's supervised learning. What are some of the limitations that come with that? And that was like just the intro. Then the basic feature would be like just how can you integrate that with your ID and some of the commands that you can try, and just some fun stuff. Then some of the deep dives into the additional features like how can you ask it, how can you use the inline chat, and then moving on to some of the more deep dives into some of the features of GitHub Copilot. You've got the three modes, right? The ask, edit, and agent. So it was a thorough deep dive into these three modes, and it was going through an exercise of you've got a source file, and then let's try a bunch of things with that. So the people that I was delivering training to, it was also in addition to me telling them all of this and how to do that and some of the benefits of it, it was also like a workshop. So at each point I'd encourage them to give it a go on their IDs, on their computers, and then see what they get. So prior to this training session, prior to this training lesson that I was delivering, we made sure that they were all set up with their GitHub Copilot in the their ID of choice on the machine. So with the appropriate licensing and everything, so nothing to actually stop them. And it was actually quite interesting, and the people that were part of this were all quite engaged and quite intent for that matter. Funnily enough, as lame as my jokes were, as lame as I think they are, well, it was my audience. I mean, they found it funny, so I found my audience. But anyway, it was interesting. It was 2.5 hours, and it was quite interesting for me to go through that, because yes, all of these things. We all know some of the features, but to actually practice them while training your peers is all the more rewarding, and it's all the more beneficial to you as an engineer, because then you know what you need to do and how you can use it, and it just permanently it's imprinted onto your memory, so you know exactly what to do, because you've not only used it, but you've talked about it like a ton of times. So there's that. Now for the next project that I've been involved in at my workplace was I think I talked about this in one of my earlier videos, is a legacy web app migration. So we've got a really good app that's been written in AngularJS 1.0, and we are now making attempts to convert that to a more modern React app. Things such as using state hooks and all that. So for that one, it was really interesting. So the project wasn't really full on. It was just for me to prove what can and cannot be accomplished with GitHub Copilot, and how can we best use it to improve productivity for engineers. And so what I did was I actually took the app, which is a really big app, and I isolated certain pages on the app that I thought that I could convert, and I time boxed it to about 16 to 20 hours, and I just wanted to see the results, what I could achieve in that time. And the end product of this was like a short demo of the code that was converted, of the pages that were converted, and 2 documents talking about some of the prompting strategies used, as well as like a detailed feasibility study of migrating this app in-house internally in the organization versus outsourcing it to a different vendor, and what are some of the cost benefits of both ways, what are some of the advantages and disadvantages. Let's just sum it up that. And that's what I did, and it was quite well received by the stakeholders that I was presenting it to. So once I finished this feasibility study and I had something to show for, I actually organized a time and I presented it to the stakeholders and tried to assure them of the benefits of GitHub Copilot and how we can best use it. Of course, to use it to do this migration, you do need someone with AngularJS 1.0 knowledge, and you also need someone who is part of that domain, so they understand the business requirements of it, and they can understand the not just they are better equipped to talk about some of the ins and outs of the business context. So that was that, and it was alright. It went well, and the stakeholders are now convinced that they will be doing this migration internally. I don't think I had the biggest. I'll be honest. I don't think I had the biggest part in this to actually convince them to do the development in house. That was my recommendation, 100%. But it was just that I think when they tried to outsource it, they kind of realized that it would be there. A lot of the requirements would be lost in translation, and there'll be heaps of back and forth until they get the output they require, they desire. That was pretty much my recommendation. Of course, they had already decided that at a different point in time before I even presented my findings. So yeah, I'm not sure how that went on, but that's about my pay grade, so I wouldn't even bother finding out. But this was my experience of using GitHub Copilot, and it was really good. So you really need to know how to untangle and decipher those nested directives in AngularJS to be able to convert that to React components. So yeah, that was what it was, and it was fun. I had a great time with both of these projects, and as far as delivering training is concerned, I think I might be doing that once more, because the training that I delivered was very well received. And yeah, so they calling me for another go, and that'll be right. I'm looking forward to delivering training. I'm happy to share the knowledge. Like I said before, individually we're smart. Together we get smarter. Our strength is in unity. So, having said all that, I think it's a good point for me to close this call. Sorry, I'm not in a Microsoft Teams meeting. It's a good point for me to end this video. And for those of you who are watching this, I wish you well and live long and prosper.